you doing up there? What'd you find, huh? You're silly. Should we go feed the sheep? Do you want to go feed the sheep? So before we start talking about what's going on in the sock spinning world, spinning for socks, I wanted to show you what I've been knitting on in the mornings when I'm not spinning. My ankle has been hurting, so I haven't been spinning as much as I should be. So I'm way behind in my own sock spin along. But anyway, I have this slipped on and I'll take it off to finish up the recording because I'm on needles. I don't have any of those cord things that you put your knitting on. Sometimes I put a string through, a thread through, but I just left it on 2 sets of needles. So this is my Boskular pullover, which is a pattern by Marina Skua. You've heard me speak of her often here on this podcast. One of my favorite designers and podcasters and just all around people, even though I don't know her in real life, but I do really enjoy Marina. And I had started this pattern last year, and I mentioned that then for different reasons, I needed to change size. I'm knitting with a thicker yarn than what her pattern calls for, so I'm making some adjustments as I go. And I also made a turtleneck or a higher collar where the pattern is just rather low. But let me see here if I can you see the trees, the tops of the trees starting to form? So this is knit in my own Shetland Handspun black from my U style, and the gray is mill spun, but it's from my Corridales. So to me, this was blending the two, combining the two flocks and my history with sheep and with wool together. And one of my favorite things is walking in the woods and looking up and seeing the trees. And if I remember, I'll put a picture in to show you like my inspiration photo for this. But Marina every winter, early spring runs an Out of the Dark make along, and that's getting ready to come to a close, I think. And no way am I going to be finished. I'm just about ready. I'm just about finished with the yoke and split for the sleeves and body, but I just wanted to show it. I should have angled the camera a little bit more. There, now you can see it. Did the short rows at the back, so it's going to fit really nice there. And this is not scratchy at all, not itchy at all. So I'm just really pleased with it, and I wanted to share progress on that. And another thing, this does kind of tie into sock yarn, or socks, spinning for sock yarn. I treated myself to a braid of fibers from Marina, the Skua blend. And I'm going to hold it up here for you. Isn't it beautiful? I'll try to hold it more steady. I have opened the braid up to look at it. Look at those colors that Marina dyed. This is a blend of 100% British wool, Dorset horn, Cheviot or Cheviot, whichever way you say it, Manx, Teeswater, and Jacob. And so no, it's not local to me. It's not from a local farm, but it is from someone whose work I admire and respect. And Marina works very closely with local to her farmers and tries to promote local wool. And so I just thought this could be a fun sock spin. Now, I don't know if this will show. Can you see? Look at that squish and bounce. So I have my other yarn that I'm spinning, so I'm not going to start this just yet, but I did want to show it. I also received some wonderful gifts over the last few weeks. Well, actually, even since Christmas time, from other members of our fiber community. And I want to share those with you guys. So I'll do that on a separate episode. I want to be sure everybody that has gifted me things is okay with me sharing, but also some were things that I swapped. So some other fun woolly goody things that I want to share with you guys. So we'll do that another time. Okay, I'm going to go take off my yoke and collar before I pull stitches out, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the sock spin along and do an update. Well, here we are. Let's see. This is the day after Valentine's Day. So we're into the third week of February, and we're spinning along and working along towards our socks. And as we get closer to being able to knit with our sock yarn, um, I thought maybe we'd talk about some other considerations as you're seeing what your yarn is turning out to be. Now, as I said, I'm way behind on spinning for my own um, spin along, make along. I was going to spin today. I'm at home today, and the snow is beautiful and it's very peaceful. Much needed. My heart and soul and body and mind all needed that snowfall, and I'm treasuring every minute of it because it's not due to last. It's supposed to last, and it's already tapered off. But the wind has really picked up. So as often has happened, and I have mentioned here, the snow may come off the roof. Bailey might bark at that. The wind is blowing really hard, so we might hear some odd noises. So I've been following along with your spins when you share that with me and enjoying it very much. And I hope that as participants, you're watching what each other is doing as well. I've been very busy shipping out fibers, our curated sock set that I announced last month, and then my own Corridale, which I sold out of almost immediately. And thank you so much. I mentioned it on Instagram, but I hadn't mentioned it here yet, that I appreciate that so much. Now there is some more fibers coming back from the mill, and I talked on Instagram. I just briefly mentioned my friend Emma at Urban Dreams Farm, who is only 15 minutes away from me, and she did the processing for me. And so there is some more coming back, and so I will have some more Corridale. And also our original grouping of the curated sock sets did sell out, but we're going to add, when I get my Corridale back, we'll add to that. And that comes also from my friend Carrie, who is Kids and Kritters Farm, and she is the person who donated the lotion and lip balm last time. And she's also the person behind the Harlequin roving. So just to kind of tie together in your mind people who are close by me and who are participating in this with me. So on my Instagram, if you follow me there, I did link to both of those women. They hadn't been very active on social media, but they're going to try to do so a little bit more, so you can go and follow them. So I hope that you will. And we'll have some more fibers and goodies to share with you coming up. So thank you for that. And I've been trying to be in touch with everybody as I'm packing the orders up, but if I missed you for any reason, or if you're curious about the sock set or some of my own farm fibers, you can go back and watch the previous episode, or you can message me here. But anyway, I got off a little on a tangent. I am home today, and I was packing orders, and then I wanted to treat myself to time to spin. I was going to record that for this episode, but my ankle is hurting. And so, like we spoke about before, if you have aches and pains anywhere and you sit down to spin or knit, it seems to throw things off. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something instead. First of all, I'm looking at my notes. When we talked about fibers and yarns and thicknesses and weights and such to use before, I forgot to mention something. Two things, actually. And one is unspun roving, or the unspun yarns that are so popular right now. Nutiden, of course, the Lopi has been around for a very long time, and some of the others. People make socks out of those and dearly love them. So that's an option for you too. And also singles yarns. Years ago, back before Ravelry, maybe Ravelry had started, but several years ago, and in a knit group that I was in, a fiber group, we did an experiment of spinning with singles and knitting socks. And some people just loved it. I enjoyed it. I was not unhappy with the yarn, but of course you have, even with a really balanced single, you have that bias that wants to come. So it seemed like the socks wanted to twist around all the time. So I didn't do it again, but that's not to say I wouldn't visit that again. Also, I want to mention, because the biggest question and the biggest thing that we've been talking about is how fine we can spin our yarns for our socks, or if they end up to be, if we think we're spinning a fingering weight or a sport weight, but it's a worsted or a DK. I wanted to mention a particular sock pattern, and I found it through a group that was mentioned by two of my very favorite podcasters who I follow, and they both mentioned this group at the same time, and so I thought it was kind of an omen. And the group or the organization is called Wool Aid, so it's woolaid.org. I'll put it on the screen here and also down below, which is a charity knitting organization. And luckily, one of the ones that really asks for 100% wool. And Mars at Hey Brownberry and Laura at the Corner of Knit and Tea both mentioned that organization at about the same time. And so I signed up for that, and I'm following that. And they have a pattern, Wool Aid does. They didn't come up with the pattern, but it's one that they recommend. And it's called, well, it'll be backwards if I show you here, so I'll put a picture on the screen. But it's the No Swatch, No Gauge Thermal Sock. So it's kind of a broken rib type sock, intended for charity use, where every pair will fit some child or will fit someone. And this is by Jean Gifford. It's a free pattern, but for personal and charity use only. And she says, select a yarn and needle combination that will give a good fabric. Try worsted weight with size 4 or 5, scrap, fingering, leftovers and scraps make great striped socks. And what else did she say? Some yarn and needle combinations work up short and wide, while others work up tall and thin. Using your own judgment, work a few more or less than 30 rows. So it fits right in with our spinning for sock yarn. So go and find that. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And so at least I think, so if you're spinning and you're not happy for yourself with the yarn that you have created, even if it's a perfectly good yarn, make a pattern and send it off for charity, or send it to someone you know. It's going to fit somebody. Don't abandon it. At least that's my thought. So I wanted to mention that. Very worthwhile charity. I'm glad that Mars and Laura had mentioned it. And then there is this sock that we can use. I did send off the books, and they are that we gave as prizes previously, and they are in the hands of the prize recipients. And I thought here in a minute I'll read you a little excerpt from the Homespun and Hand Knit sock book that really fits in with our sock yarns, I think. So something that came to mind to me, oh, I'm sorry if I wiggled the table. Been thinking about this a lot as we got ready for this year's sock spin along. And as I've been wearing my socks that I've spun, you know that my favorite have been my tall boot socks that I made a couple of years ago. And as I've worn those, and I've worn some other patterns that I've made, I've started to wonder if the construction of the sock, if the pattern that we choose has a fair bit more to do with how our sock wears than even what our yarn ends up being. Have you thought about this? I'm probably not the first person to think about it. I'm sure there's someone much smarter than I am who has. But I've been thinking about it a lot. I think I'll show you. We'll look at a sock here, and I can point out to you the parts that I'm thinking about, that I'm talking about. So I'm going to pause just for a minute and turn you around to look at the socks. So here we are back again. And here is my fuzzy old, well, 3-year-old pair of boot socks. And then this is the other oldest pair that I have that's much thinner yarn, but it's still holding up really well. But this is the best fitting sock that I've ever made. And I just winged it. I just went as I changed things up as I went. And it fits so well, and it's worn so well, that it got me to thinking about, like I said, the pattern and the construction, if that doesn't have a lot to do with how the sock wears. If your sock is loose or baggy at the ankle, let's say, and underfoot here, or even at the toe, isn't it going to slop around and slide around more in your shoe or your boot and cause some friction that might cause it to wear out? I also talked about how now I've come to knit color work around this portion of my sock, because that's where I generally wear out my socks faster. And that seems to help too. And it also kind of snugs it up, I suppose. Um, at the same time, too tight of a gauge in a fabric might not have any give, and it might pull in and maybe cause tension and issues that way. So we might also consider, when we're making socks from hand spun, hand knit yarn, our construction. A sock staying up in your boots or your shoes. I've really come to believe that the length of the leg has a lot to do with that. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Now, this one is also one that I did increases going up the calf so that it hugs my leg, my ankle, my leg. And this goes all the way up to my knee. So it fits really well. And having this height and the fact that it fits so well just below my knee, of course, keeps it from pulling down inside my boot and in my shoe. At least I think. What do you think about that? If you've had issues in different areas, might you consider a different construction for your sock? If you've done a heel flap and gusset and it's too bulky or doesn't stay up, maybe you want to try a short row heel, or the afterthought heel. Maybe one of those would work better. Maybe you need a longer toe for your sock, work the toe with more gradual decreases. Maybe you have shorter toes and you need to make more rapid decreases or increases if you're knitting toe up. Toe up is my preference, but maybe yours is top down. But if you've always done it one way or the other, maybe try that difference. Of course, always try a different needle size to get what you want, right? I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about, and I'm going to experiment with myself with this next pair of socks that I'm going to make. So that's my question, my consideration right now, and I wonder what your thoughts are about this. Let me know in the comments down below. Bailey's over here wagging her tail at me, sitting on the couch while we talk. I wanted to read you a little comment, or the preface actually, a little bit from the introduction of the Handspun and Hand Knit Sock book. And she writes how this book was born from some really good fun, a contest that was sponsored by Spin-Off Magazine back in 1985. And she says that they received so many different patterns and works to choose from. She says there were dear old favorites and fun experiments, sturdy everyday standbys, and heirloom treasures. And we're seeing that as we watch what people are making for the sock, from the sock spin along. She goes on to write, what made all these pieces outstanding is that almost every one was thoughtfully designed and knitted with love for some particular reason. A child, grandchild, spouse, friend, special customer, they were made to snug right down into somebody's life. That's what makes knitting, and I think spinning, so wonderful. Commercially produced caps, socks, and mittens abound in the marketplace, but where can you find a hat that just matches your daughter's eyes, or gloves with cuffs that come up just so on your resident woodchopper's wrists? Socks that make room for a funny second toe, or mittens so special that they will never languish in the lost and found. And then she goes on to say, I hope that you'll find ideas here that are just right for you, or the inspiration to make some special changes. If you're a new knitter, and I say new spinner, I hope that seeing the endless variety in other people's work will give you the courage to experiment and personalize your own, as knitters and spinners have been doing for centuries. Most of all, I hope that you'll find hours of serenity and creative fun with your able hands, a continuous thread, and the ideas that you find here in this. She's speaking about the book, but I'm speaking about our little sock spin along that we do every year. So that's all I have for you today. You're probably going to have seen a few minutes of some weather video, maybe some of the sheep, and then the talk here about thinking about the construction of our socks and how that might fit with what we're spinning. So, gosh, you guys, I hope I find some time to spin. You guys are way outdoing me. I'm not envious or jealous, and I'm not judging myself. I just need to get some spinning done so I can show you some of what I'm doing. The spinning I have done, I wasn't happy with, and so I need to get back to it. So look for me on Instagram. I'm much more active there. I had hoped to put these short episodes up every Wednesday, and it seems to be Thursday before I can get them up. So I'm not going to change it and say that I'm going to put them up on Thursday, because then that won't happen. I'm going to keep it the way it is, and then I seem to be able to get them up by Thursday for you. So I hope you understand that I am very busy on the farm. I'm helping a friend clean out a barn, and so finding time when I come in and sit down at night and I'm so tired doesn't always happen. I try to record ahead, but it doesn't always happen. I think that's everything. I'll watch through this footage and see if I need to add anything at the end, and then we'll check back next week. Keep spinning, keep knitting if you've already started, keep sampling. We have a whole another month and a half, and we can go longer if we need to. So don't feel like you're behind. Don't feel like you're not catching up. And if you're unhappy with the fiber that you started with, then choose another one and another spin. These small projects are so wonderful for that. If you need fiber and you don't have the means to purchase it, please reach out. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning, that we have ways that we can send some fiber to you. Or if you have the means to purchase it and you're interested in some of my farm yarn or local farm yarn, local to me, that we've put together especially for this sock spin along, please reach out. In the meantime, enjoy snow if you have it, or warm weather if you have that, and take care of yourselves and your family and friends. Talk to you soon.